So, Secret Invasion, episode 1. Let's go with the first impressions. What do you got? What did you think?
Something seems off about the show. I'm not really sure what it is. It just seems off. It's like everyone's awkward. I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just not done well.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Fury seems off to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, they made comments about how he's changed and all this stuff. It just seems off. The woman, the Russian lady, or the one, she was in the embassy or whatever, wherever she was. I guess she was British, MI6 or whatever. She seems weird. It's like she's doing things. It's like they're all setting each other up in this weird, unobvious way to them, but it seems obvious to everyone else. It just seems off to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting take. I thought it was a great start. I think obviously, as we said, I mean, it can't be the same as the comics. It just can't be. It just can't be. But I thought it was an interesting setup. Obviously it was a little bit slow with deposition and set everything up, but a shock, kind of unexpected ending. I didn't get that vibe, but I would say that vibe wouldn't be surprising because you're talking about a secret invasion.
Right.
You're talking about trying to set the things up. Because when you read the comics, right, it's set up like set up to be like, well, like who is who and
right.
Can you trust, and motherfucker in the comics, like Spider-Woman, the Queen, she's portraying, she pretending to be Spider-Woman, convinces Tony Stark that he's a sleeper agent. So it's like the entire idea of this entire storyline is like everything that's going on really going on, and what is going on here. There's always this sort of,
who can you trust?
There's always a sort of switch up, and then so that might be what you're seeing.
I'm sorry. Apparently there's no comic book people in this show.
Right.
There's no Reed Richards. There's no Tony Stark.
Right.
There's no Spider-Man type thing. I mean, are those people going to show up eventually or what?
I doubt it. I don't think so.
I don't think those people are showing up. So, my first impression, was before the show came out, I watched a video where they released the first like 4 or 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
And you see the beginning where the guy comes in and he's talking to the guy that had come out with all the information and had gotten all the crazy different things, and he was saying that all these different terrorist attacks all over the globe were all tied into the Skrulls, and it was all this alien cover up, and the guy's like, that whole back and forth was really entertaining, and I really enjoyed it as the preview to the episode, and that was pretty cool. And what made it even more insane was, spoiler alert, after the chase and everything ended up being a Skrull. So that was extremely cool. I liked it. I thought the dialogue there was well done, and it played into how do you know who's the Skrulls and who's not, which is the big question that Doc was talking about. I will say that I went in understanding it wasn't going to be like the comics, and it wasn't going to be superhero driven. It was neat. I like Don Cheadle. I like the fact they have James Rhodes in there, so you had the possibility of War Machine sometime during the show. Maybe if Nick Fury gets in really deep, then you could have a War Machine appearance. That we talked about that earlier too. A lot of what went on in the first episode to me was kind of anti-build-up for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had the Skrull, you had Emilia Clarke's character bring that one Skrull to their hideout, and he interacts with all the Skrulls there, and that was pretty cool. And you get a little backstory on her and what's going on, and they're moving on with their plan. But some of the dialogue to me was kind of weak. I'm interested to see the next episode. The end shocked me. I wasn't expecting what they did, especially if it's ended the way it looks. If what took place is they stick with it, that kind of was surprising to me.
Do you think they will?
I think so.
I mean, going with the comics, was that the one who was in charge of Shield?
Yeah.
And then what he told her in the comics, he told her, make sure you have your little robots of you going out everywhere. It seems to me that if you kill two of the most known people, in the first episode, whoever that guy was that played
Agent Ross.
that went off the roof or whatever, he's a well-known actor. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but his characters.
But to kill two of the most known people in the first episode,
Well, it
it seems
was
to me you're going
mainly
to see
her.
probably both of them again.
So
Okay. Well, first, technically, that was a Skrull posing as Agent Ross, so Agent
Right.
Ross is still alive. Hypothetically, that hasn't been answered. So
Right.
that's kind of set up. Did he capture and replace Agent Ross, or did he just show up for this meeting as Agent Ross?
Right.
That's the question. Do you guys can maybe think that it's possible we could be sometimes being overcritical?
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
I am surprised at this because I sincerely I enjoyed it, and I didn't see all these things. Like I said, okay, it was a little slow, kind of, but it is deposition, right? It is a setup. It is the first episode. You're kind of trying to set up what's going on, bring everybody in. I know, but on the other side, like, you really can't just it's hokey when things move too fast. It's hokey when it's just like
There's a
we
balance.
jump in and we go, oh, we got the super serum. We need to go over here and do that. We just got to get the flying. I just found the thing in the blah. That's like, so it's like you gotta have to set the scene where we're coming from, especially because the way things have already been set up, where the scrolls were painted the kind of swerve that you wouldn't normally have had. That the Skrulls were painted to be the good guys in the Captain when they were first introduced in the Captain Marvel movie. They're not bad guys. They were painted as bad guys, but it was a lie from the Kree to try to whatever. So you come in, you already have to kind of set them up as bad guys and explain why they're bad guys and why they were wrong. Now they're bad guys and what's going on with these characters and then they want to do that callback, right? So obviously all that's kind of necessary. But I didn't see it in that way. Like it was pretty interesting. It was slow. Obviously, it was slow, but things were set up in a certain way, and I think it kind of follows along, not to the T, but kind of the side story that we see in the comics, which is a little bit different, but which is Nick Fury's the guy. In the background, everybody thinks he's dead. The heroes think he's dead, and he's in the background who discovers this and is setting up this whole contingency for when
Right.
they do all this.
So I agree with your take. I'm just saying it's a 6-episode miniseries. So in 6 episodes, they're going to have to do a lot to move the story along. And we saw a lot of Skrulls, which is cool. And we saw this warehouse abandoned, like Chernobyl style setup, which is somewhere like that is where they are, because they made a point to say that they're immune to radiation. So I didn't have a problem with it. I just was expecting a little more. I don't know, the end of the episode when they're at the square or whatever it was that they met, where they were going to intercept them, and the one kept changing. It ended up being the leader, and he started out a little girl with a ball, then he was the woman, then the guy, and then he's himself, and then the bomb goes off. That was really cool. I really liked that because it's like, is this the same person that walked by and they're looking at me? That was cool. And I'm hopeful that the next episodes have a little more meat and going. And if it's just going to be Nick Fury, because if that's the case, if it's just Nick Fury by himself, then he needs to kick it up a notch.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying.
But see, they're setting it up, right?
Yeah, well, he seems off. That's why I'm
Right.
saying it's like.
But you see, it's like they are, because they keep continuously going, and everybody's telling him like, you're too old for this, and
Right.
you're past
Yeah,
your
well,
prime. You shouldn't even be involved anymore.
That's what
And so
Maria,
they're setting that up.
That's the first thing Maria says to him. You didn't have to come down here. You don't even look like you're ready for this.
Right.
And it's
and,
like-
and that seems to be what they're trying to do, is set up like, okay,
Yeah.
and then it's going to be this kind of, okay, well, yeah, but you can't teach an old dog new tricks or whatever.
Right, and the woman, the MI6 lady, she says, it's obvious that he let himself get caught. At least when he's sitting in her office, she says, "Well, you're losing your edge or whatever because you were easy. My guys were able to catch you so easily." And it's like he walks over and plants that bug or whatever. It's like
Right.
I'm where I want it to be.
Right.
And so at least they're showing that. But
Well, that didn't seem so obvious to me, like that it would necessarily wanted to be caught and was like knew those guys were watching him.
I think
now, he might have.
In hindsight, when he walked out and they grabbed him, it was like, okay, that's odd. But when he's in the office, it's like
Right.
the way he's standing in her office.
Right.
He's like he purposely did that. I'm going to go get into this person's office now.
Then at the same time, if you're Nick Fury, that's how you stand in someone's office.
Yeah.
You don't pretend like you were caught flat-footed, even if you were. And I would say if you're Nick Fury, you would have a contingency on you in general. But I mean, from the beginning, they did. I mean, because like when he walked out, when he went for the walk, they were like, "You're gonna go take a walk in Moscow. It's dangerous in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
You're gonna stick out like a sore thumb." All that. So it's like,
But yet
we don't know what they're
the
setting
other guy
up.
doesn't stick out like a sore
So-
thumb.
Right.
So you got all the rumors that we heard ahead of time
Yeah.
about all these possible people that were going to be in this.
Right. Some of them have said they weren't.
Like the one that would make the most sense if you're going to bring her in would be Daisy Ridley,
Yeah.
Quake from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I mean Daisy Johnson.
It's Daisy Johnson. Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah, but she already
They
came out.
changed her name like 3 times in that show.
No, but I mean the actor's name, or not the actor's name, but the character's name was Daisy Johnson.
Daisy Johnson,
And
and
then-
then she was Quake, but her name was something before that or after
It was
that.
Sky.
Sky. That's
Yeah.
what it was. In the
But
beginning.
she's
She
not
was
going to
the
be in it.
hacker.
At least she came on social media and said that she's
No,
not
she's
in
not
it.
on
She
it.
wasn't in it.
Wow, that's
So, which
Well-
it is, I mean, people that, but on the other side, like if you're writing, right? Specifically because what you do like to try to make cliffhangers and surprises. If you're writing a story that's already written, and you're like coming with the same night, the secret invasion, all these things, if you sincerely, like as a writer, go, okay, I want to like surprise people and shock people. I enjoy that factor. Then you're not going to do the obvious thing. It's like, well, obviously you would bring in Quake because that's what she is in the other story. So why would you do the obvious thing? So it's like there has to be a leeway in creativity for writers to be able to go, all right, this is the way I'm going to do it. Oh, if they screw everything up, that's one thing. But there has to be a leeway to go, okay, well,
Yeah.
So in the comics, Daisy Ridley would have, or not Daisy Ridley. We keep saying Daisy Ridley.
Sorry.
Quake would have been in there, and in the comics, Maria Hill was in charge of Shield, and Shield's like gone now. In the universe, it's done. There's no Shield.
Yeah, there's no
there's
Shield.
these
Since
secret
the
little
Heidi
things,
takeover.
but the official big Shield helicarrier and all of that is in the comics. That's all. So, it's like, yeah, in the comics, it was an entire worldwide event. So in here, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some cameos. Because like it's the same way like like the Chris Evans cameo in the Thor movie with Loki where he does because that's one of Loki's abilities and so he flashes as Captain America for a minute in Thor: The Dark World. I wouldn't be surprised if something of that nature because this is the Skrulls they take on these different appearances. I wouldn't be surprised if some sort of short cameo, but I do think that this entire story it's a Nick Fury story.
Nick Fury spy
This
kinda
isn't
thing.
so like this is in the Marvel universe. But this isn't a comic book series. This is more like it's not about the flies and the guy that can fly and the powers and all that. This is this secret sort of like mystery kind of agency kind of thing.
Yeah, I understand that, but it seems to me that if you have a race of or a group of aliens that are trying to take over the entire planet, and they can mimic the powers of whatever superhero they want to do, and you don't have any of those people in it.
Well, we don't know if they can mimic the powers.
No, that's what it says in the book. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but we don't know if they can in the universe.
No, that's
haven't
how
established
it was. That's what it was in the Secret Invasion comic book. Because
learned that.
They had the ability to take possession of the character they were replacing. So if they were replacing Power Man, they would have Power Man's powers. If they were replacing, which was Luke Cage, if they were replacing,
I was going to say, let's get Power Man to replace Power Man. Nobody will know.
but that they would have those powers when they replace that person. But
I guess
And-
as
and
it stands on its own, it's not bad.
Yeah, so I think as you see what they're doing, I don't think because they're already setting up as having super strength and all that. So I don't think they're necessarily gonna have the ability to copy all these powers, which is what they in the Secret Invasion that was the big deal about Secret Invasion was as to opposed to the history of comics, they now had learned how to take over these powers and they had made how to copy these powers and they had made these scrolls that would like combine all these powers like the Super Scroll.
The Super Skrull.
But I think that I mean, in a way, it really is. We're kind of reviewing the first episode, but it is a little early to kind of know where everything's going to go.
So
I would expect a lot of twists. Obviously,
well,
there should be twists.
I mean, they have come out and said multiple times, Marvel has, that this is going to be a spy thriller, and this is going to be a cloak and dagger kind of never knowing in the room who's what and all that. Which, so far, I have to admit that at the beginning I thought the agent that was there was the actual agent, was an actual agent, and that he wasn't. And he ended up not being the person he was masquerading as. That guy ended up being someone else.
Once he started to go, the whole "you're crazy" conspiracy guy thing going on, I was like, okay, here we go.
I didn't see. When he killed the guy, that wasn't obvious. But when the guy just changed, I was like, okay, that guy might just have just snapped. But then when he killed him, it was like, okay, that's obviously he killed him. That's obviously.
I expect that it's going to be entertaining, and I expect so far I like what I've seen.
It's very promising.
I'm not. I've watched a couple of reactions and a couple other things that were super negative. I mean, they were breaking down acting and all kinds of crazy stuff. But
see, there's a lot of that nitpicking stuff.
Mostly nitpicking on dialogue, and I'm like, right now, not that over concerned about the dialogue. I got the information I needed in the first episode.
Okay, so this is almost a great segue too, because this is another thing. There's a lot of that goes in. One of the things that nitpicked on that show was the AI art at the beginning. The credits is all AI art, which I think it's a form of art, right? It's not but they're like, oh, they're doing AI. But another thing that was just crazy this week, right? This is a kind of a segue.